I'm Tom Krugoff, and I'm here with Chamber Revenue Strategies Executive Cole Wyatt to discuss their Goodwill gift program. If you're not familiar, Chamber Revenue Strategies works with chambers of commerce across the country by creating programs that generate a windfall in non-dues revenue, permeate goodwill throughout the country, attract and retain chamber members. It's how they do it that fascinates me. They actually send out birthday cards full of gift certificates to every resident in the community.
In addition to that, once we start with the birthday cards, Tom, we then expand the program to send cards for every birth, new baby, every wedding, celebrating a marriage, every new homeowner, and even each person that starts a new business.
I watched you in an interview with Angela Gill, and she referred to you as a modern-day Santa Claus. Is it true? Are you Santa Claus?
Angela did make that comment. Let me say to you, Tom, that there is something magical about looking over in the corner and seeing bins and bins and bins of Goodwill gift packages that are about to be sent out to people that you've never met around the world, around the country, with gifts for their birthdays or for their new baby or for their wedding or what may have you. And in fact, if you don't mind me saying, we actually, before we send them out, we actually do a prayer over them, that these gifts lighten someone's heart that day or raise spirits or maybe encourage them to pay it forward a little bit and do something that's unexpected and kind for someone else, but before it goes out. So in that regard, I could see your tie. But if you think about it, Tom, we're behind the scenes. The Santa Claus in this picture, okay, is the chamber executive. It's their face that's on that birthday card or greeting card that goes out. It's the chamber itself that is sending the gifts. And I think you told me before we got started, you have 4 children? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you remember when they were young and they were tearing into Santa's gifts, right? And you remember that smile you just gave me? You're picturing that, right? You remember sitting with your wife and with that same smile reflecting on the time and money and energy and effort that the two of you had invested so that Santa could get all the glory? Then you know exactly how I feel with Chamber Revenue Strategies.
Yes, yes.
We're behind the scenes.
Your website does a nice job of explaining your program. I think I understand what the program is. Can you explain why it works?
Well, in today's discussion, we're going to really drill down into several psychological principles, universal laws really, that force a consumer to want to get out there and redeem their gift certificates, that engage them into the process to the point where they're drawn, compelled really, to then create a long-standing relationship with that sponsor. But at first blush, the 30,000-foot view, is the program works well because everybody profoundly benefits from the program that touches it. It all begins, Tom, with a consumer. Picture yourself at home, you go to your mailbox and all of a sudden you've got a birthday card there and you start thumbing through and you've got 10 or 15, 20, 25 gifts, bona fide, no strings attached gifts that are there to add to your celebration, if you will. Okay, and so it all begins by just kind of rocking the world of that resident, and then that spills over into those small businesses that are marketing through our program because they have people coming in excited about their free massage or their free oil change or their free month at the health club, or I'm here to get my free large birthday pizza, and they benefit obviously from the enthusiasm from that person and then the law of reciprocity, which we'll talk about, that comes from giving that gift. And then the chambers, of course, have their goodwill plastered all throughout the city. I mean, they've actually, at no expense to them whatsoever, have spent or have sent birthday cards to everybody in their community. And of course, then we hope that it turns into a viable financial venture for us. But at first blush, I think one of the reasons why the program is getting such a buzz and it's being talked about the way it is simply because of the fact that every single person that's involved benefits in such an extraordinary way.
Okay, I think I understand it, but why free gifts?
Well, nothing works as well as free, Tom. It's really interesting when you get into the research, and I'm a bit of a junkie in this area, but when you get into the research, what you learn is that from a psychological perspective, something that's free is treated completely differently. That becomes a social dynamic, and something that has a cost, no matter how minuscule, becomes a financial dynamic. There's a professor at Duke, Dr. Dan Ariely, Ariely, I may be mispronouncing his name, but he did an interesting study. And in that study, he took a Lynn chocolate truffle, okay, real delicacy, right? And he gave you a choice. You can have a Lynn chocolate truffle for 14 cents, which is a real bargain, okay? Or you can have a Hershey's Kiss for a penny. Which one do you want? Well over 70% said, I'll take the truffle, okay? Then he went back and he said, okay, you can have your Lynn chocolate truffle for 13 cents, discounted only a penny, or the Hershey's Kiss free, and you can only have one. What do you think happened?
Hershey's Kiss.
Virtually nobody wants the truffle. Everybody wants the free thing. And interestingly enough, he'd done another experiment that I actually mocked myself this past Halloween. I love Halloween and trick-or-treaters. And when they came to the door, I live in an area where we get bombarded, so I had lots of samples, okay? And when the kids had come to the door, Tom, I had them put out their hands, sometimes 4 or 5 of them in a row, put out your hands, okay? And I put 5 chocolate kisses in their hands. And then I would say, okay, here's your choice. You can have your 5 kisses, or if you'll give me 1 chocolate kiss back, I'll give you a small Snickers bar. Or if you give me 2 of your 5 chocolate kisses, I'll give you a big Snickers bar. Now, kids, they're horse traders, especially when it comes to an important commodity like candy. Okay, so what did they all do? They said 2 for 14 ounces of Snickers bars is a pretty good deal. I'll do that. So then, everyone did. Then, they come to the door, 5 kisses in their hand, right? And I said, okay, you can either have 1, in addition to your 5 kisses, 1 Snickers bar that is free in addition to your kisses. Or if you'll give me just 1 kiss, I'll give you the bigger Snickers bar. What did they do? They all took the little free one. There's just something the psychologists say that's magical, Tom, about free. No strings attached, free. And so it's because of that when we give a gift of a free pizza or a free month at a health club or a free watch battery or jewelry cleaning at a jewelry store or whatever it might be, that it stirs a person completely differently than 2 for 1 or buy 1, get 5 free or any other marketing concept where there is a financial transaction involved.
Mm-hmm. Well, could you describe a little bit what would be in a typical gift package that they're going to get? And I think I know the answer to this question, but do any of them come with any strings attached?
Yeah, okay. In the packet, for a sponsor, we'll call them, okay, a chamber member, to participate in our program, they have to give a gift that, as a standalone, Tom, by itself, you could put into a Hallmark card or something and give to an associate or a friend, and it becomes now a birthday gift or a housewarming gift or here's your new baby gift by itself. Okay, it's got to be totally acceptable as a standalone. So then, as you think about an aggregate, you put 15, 20, 25, sometimes more gifts together. Now you really have something. And typically what you're going to find, of course it'll vary, but you'll always see a free oil change, and what's that, 30, 35 bucks or more in some cases. You're virtually always going to have an insurance agent, and they can't give a free insurance product, but they'll give a security a product like a smoke detector or maybe a fire extinguisher. Or I have an insurance agent that I work with that, he does. He has a couple, Esmeralda and Raphael, okay? And Esmeralda will do 2 free hours of house cleaning. Or Raphael will detail your car dealership new is what he calls it, right in your driveway. So the insurance agent shows up, introduces them to Raphael or Esmeralda. They get to work, and then that's his gift to them, and he has an opportunity then to meet and introduce himself, and it works exceedingly well. We'll frequently have tons of food. There's always pizza. A free large pizza is always there. Oftentimes a dozen donuts. There's half a dozen different restaurants usually that will be participating. But then there's a lot of experiential things, movie tickets, theater tickets to small town theater, 3 hours of bowling. There's generally always a round of golf. Okay, you responded to that. Okay, but there's normally, again, 15, 20, 25 different things that are all thoughtful, no strings attached, nothing to buy, gifts that are just love offerings, really, that come from the Chamber of Commerce and their members.
Can you say what is the total value of a typical gift package?
Well, it varies naturally, but I would say north of a couple $100 in virtually every case. You're almost always going to have a free oil change, $35. You're almost always going to have a massage. What's an hour massage? $50-$60 or more. You're almost always going to have a round of golf. That can vary quite a bit depending on the golf course involved. There's 20, 25 certificates on average. A lot of the retailers are going to offer $5 and $10 gift cards, cash money in our store kind of scenarios. There's a free large pizza that's always going to be in there. That's knocking on the door of $20 probably in most places. And so I would say you could just about count on, Tom, that it's going to run a couple $100 or more. So it's a nice, valuable gift. And then what's neat about that is it's not one gift for $200. It's all of these gifts. And keep in mind, that means each one's needing to be redeemed, right? Mm-hmm. So what we oftentimes say is we're going to take your birthday and turn it into a birth month. Because if you're redeeming 25 gifts right over the course of a month, every day is an additional part of your celebration because of the fact that you have more gifts to redeem.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of reaction do you receive or anticipate receiving from the residents who get these?
Well, put yourself in the position of a resident receiving the gifts. And one, it's a complete surprise to you. Two, it's very valuable. Okay, you're going to have 15, 20, 25 gifts that are involved. Imagine the fact that you've got someone who has picked you out and they're acknowledging one of the more important ceremonies of life. Okay, and so our feeling is that it's going to be exceedingly well received. There's nothing in the package that is in any way, shape, or form marketing. There's no teaser copy on the outside of the envelope. There's no sales message of any type. You're going to find a very sentimental, heartfelt, happy birthday or whatever the greeting might be in there multiple times from the chamber. And so based on the fact that there's no financial side to it whatsoever, it transitions over to that social dynamic we talked about. It becomes more of a social construct. And we think, based upon that we're going to have a exceedingly positive reaction.
Mm-hmm. And tell me about this ringless voicemail, and how does that add to the experience?
Well, that's a new technology, Tom, that we've invested in. And the way it works is we actually can circumvent the ringing of a phone and lay down a voicemail message right into the voice. They look at the phone and go, oh, I didn't even hear it ring. And then they listen to the voicemail message. And before every packet is sent, the executive director in their community is going to send them a heads-up call. We call it a teaser voicemail message that basically, we playfully put Bruce Wayne in there as the Gotham City Chamber of Commerce executive director, but it'll say, hi, this is Bruce Wayne. I'm with the Chamber of Commerce, and I saw your birthday was fast approaching, and I wanted to tell you we were sending you out a gift package or something, or I noticed you just got married, and we have a gift package on the way to help you celebrate, okay, or whatever. And think about it. When you're on your way, flying or driving to a vacation, aren't you more excited than you are as you're driving or on your way home? Weren't you more excited Christmas Eve than you were the day after Christmas? And so we actually create an anticipation for the Goodwill packet, firstly. And then secondly, by giving them the heads up that it's coming, then they're kind of on the lookout for something that has no strings attached gifts. Oftentimes that voicemail will say, we've got a free pizza in this for you, a free month at the health club, we've got a free oil change, we've got, a free this, free that, and free tanning, free golf, round of golf. And so because they know that a lot of free stuff is coming, they pay a little more attention to the mailbox over the next couple of days as they anticipate the packet.
Mm-hmm. A few minutes ago, you said something about the law of reciprocity. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
It's really the underpinning of our program. The sociologists, the behavior psychologists will say it's the single most important law in our human interactions, and that is that you can't do something for me without me feeling a need to do something in return, something like back to you. If you invite me to a party, then I want to invite you to my next party. If we're at lunch today and you offer to pick up the tab, then I'm going to say, hey, Tom, the next one's on me. Okay. If we're just passing each other on the street and you smile, what happens? I smile. Okay. You say good morning, then you're likely to get a reply. Okay. And just the other day at the gym, I was getting a drink of water at the water fountain, and a guy standing behind me waiting in line, and I said, hey, this round's on me. Well, his reaction, although I was just being playful, right? He said, well, I'll get the next one. Okay. It's just in our culture, in our DNA, and it's in every culture in the world. It's one of the things that just is pervasive everywhere on earth. And so with the law of reciprocity, a couple of things you might find interesting. One point that I think really drives it home is there was a study, and we're going to talk about a lot of studies today because, again, I'm really into the research, and we thoroughly considered this before we launched the business. Tom, the research tells us that, well, let me ask you, if a waitress leaves you a single mint with your bill at the end of your meal, would that impact your tip? Most people would think not. Okay. The research tells us it actually does, that it impacts your tip by 3%, not 3% of the total, but the tip increases 3%. So it's a minor increase. But if they add a second mint, surely that wouldn't double actually it quadruples it. A second mint, Tom, changes the tip to 14% more than the base number. But Tom, if the waitress gives you 1 mint for each person in your party, turns their back as though they're going to walk away and goes, for you nice people, and gives a second one, and they actually take the time to put it in front of each one of the patrons, the tip goes up 24%. So a $40,000 a year waitress now makes 50. A small thing like that. A $20,000 a year waitress now makes 25. So an important impact. The Hare Krishnas. Are you familiar with that religion, or you know what I'm talking about? They were in desperate financial straits a number of years ago. And so they dispatched their people to train stations and airports, primarily airports. Have you seen them there? Okay. And what they decided to do was approach people with a gift, the law of reciprocity. And they had a flower. And they would say, I have a gift for you. And without asking your permission, they would begin to just pin this flower to your lapel. And if you resisted at all, they'd say, oh, no, this is my gift to you. Okay. And we're taught, accept a gift, right? Don't straight arm them. Okay, so you accept the gift, and then they would say, and if you choose to make a donation, I'm with the Hare Krishnas, right? And you know what we found? That virtually everybody, you don't accept without giving. We have names in our culture for people like that, right? Welchers, take advantage, right? So virtually everybody reached in their pocket and made a donation to a cause that they didn't necessarily support. Most of them undid the flower. They didn't want to be seen as a supporter of the Hare Krishnas and dropped it at the nearest trash receptacle. And then the Hare Krishnas would actually go to the receptacles, pick up the flowers, and recycle them, Tom. But the point is that people felt compelled to pay. Another one that you might find interesting. There is a professor from Brigham Young, Peter Coates, and he decided he'd do a social experiment. He's a behavior psychologist, right? And he would send 600 Christmas cards to people he didn't know. And he got into some directories at random, found 600 people, Tom, that he had never met, okay? And he sent them a nice Christmas card with pictures of his family, okay, little note, okay, as an experiment, and he sent it out. What do you think happened? He had over 200 responses. Now, those that are in direct mail in business know that a 2% response is fantastic in business. 1% is pretty normal. 0.5% is pretty typical, okay? But 2% is knocking it out of the park. He had a 33% response. And when these cards started rolling back in, they started trickling at first, and he was getting a dozen or more a day, okay? Pictures of the family that he had sent the card to, handwritten notes, in some cases notes that were inserted in the card because the note wouldn't fit all they wanted to write on the card. In a couple, 3 different cases, they had 3- and 4-page handwritten letters to him. with a 30% response, over 200 responses. And then the kicker, the second year, he still got cards from them. The third, and as the story unfolds, as he kept track of his numbers, 15 years later, he was still receiving Christmas cards from people that he had mailed anonymously 15 years ago. Last one for you. In Cornell, a professor named Dennis Reagan did the famous Coca-Cola experiment. And he brought in a bunch of participants, and he told them that they were here for a psychological experiment to be art critics and to give their feedback on art. But when they would bring you in, let's say you're the subject, they would have a Confederate with you that you thought was also a subject. Let's say that was me. Okay. His name was Joe. Okay. And while we're critiquing the art, Joe would excuse himself and leave the room for a moment. And when he came back, he would say, you know, when I asked the professor if I could get a soft drink, and he said it was okay, so I got you one with me. So it gives you a Coke. And in the study, they had Joe, first off, either be a very nice, pleasant, kind person, or they had him be just a cantankerous cuss, okay? Really somebody who was obnoxious and someone nobody would like, okay? And you know what they found? At the end of the experiment, Joe, before he left, would say, hey, I'm involved in a project for building a new gymnasium back in my hometown for the high school, and we're having a contest, and if you'd buy some raffle tickets for me, whoever sells the most raffle tickets gets a free car, okay? And could I interest you in some raffle tickets? And what we found was when he came back with the soda, he got 500% more raffle tickets than if he came back empty-handed. If he came back empty-handed, the amount of raffle tickets that you bought had to do with how likable he was. If he was a cantankerous cuss, you didn't buy too many raffle tickets, maybe one per quarter, okay? If he was pretty friendly, you might have bought a little more. But if he brought you a soda, whether you liked him or you did not like him, you bought raffle tickets, and you bought more raffle tickets. You bought 5 times the number of raffle tickets that you would have gotten had he not given you something. And so the idea here is that the law of reciprocity says, if I do something for you, you feel compelled to reciprocate regardless as to whether you know me, like Dr. Kuntz, okay, whether you like me, the Coca-Cola experiment, okay, or whether you believe in what I believe or you're supporting the cause that I'm promoting, like the Hare Krishnas. In all of those scenarios, that is usurped by the fact that you must respond in kind to the receipt of a gift. So when you think about the fact that we're sending gifts, Tom, to every adult resident in the community for their birthday and all the important other occasions of their life, the law of reciprocity will demand the fact that they're reciprocating. Who are they going to reciprocate with? Not me, okay. The sponsors that have given them a free massage, or the sponsors that have given them a free meal, or has provided for them a free bouquet of flowers, or whatever free gift that they might give. And what will that response be? It'll be their loyalty, it'll be their referrals, it'll be their future business. And all of those things you could never achieve with, as you said, why free? With something that is discounted. It's because of the fact that it was a free, no strings attached gift that compels people to comply with the law of reciprocity. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. What about the law of liking? What makes us like one person over another?
It's interesting. You think, oh, I just kind of like you, tell you I have good energy, or don't. There's actually some science behind it. And we find that we like people for 4 primary reasons. We like people that are attractive, and particularly if they're part of the opposite sex. That's no surprise, right? We like people that are similar to us. And the more similar to us, the more we like them. Okay? We went to the same school. We both like golf. We share the same religion. Our children play soccer together, whatever it might be. We like people that are working with us for a common goal. A political campaign, that Build the Gymnasium project that we talked about. But there's one thing that causes us to like someone that actually is more powerful than all the other 3 combined. You know what that is? Tom, it's whether they like us. That you like me more if it's obvious to you that I like you. So when we look at our program, you'll quickly see the tie-in there because of the fact that we're offering you a free, no strings attached gifts. Does that make sense?
So how does the law of liking apply to your program? Could you talk a little more about that?
Have you ever heard the name Joe Girard? Does that register with you? Joe Girard, the only way you probably would is if you came from the automobile business, because he's in the Guinness Book of World Records as the best salesman, according to Guinness, who ever lived. You're probably of the age you remember the 70s, right? The Jimmy Carter years, right? Pretty tough times, right? He was selling cars in the 70s, and he was selling on average, over 5 cars every day he worked. That he made over $250,000 in the 70s, Tom, selling cars. No fleet sales. He didn't run a dealership. He wasn't in management. He's just a car salesman. He didn't take any ups from people that walked into the dealership. He created all of his own business. How did he do that? Every customer he ever had, he sent them a greeting card every month once you became a customer for the rest of your life. In January, you got the Happy New Year card. In February, don't forget your Valentine's card. Happy St. Patty's Days and April Fools. And he said, there's a holiday every single month except August. And in August, I send everybody I bet I forgot your birthday card. Yeah. And the outside of the card would change every month, Tom. But the inside of the card always said just one thing, simply, I like you. And he put his signature to it. And when he would deliver a car, he said it was amazing. He'd see all of his cards on the mantles, and magnets would have them on the refrigerators, and sometimes he was the only person that remembered them at Christmas or something. But he became essentially a friend of the family. And that's what we do, is we insert the chamber executive into the family because they're there at all the important celebrations of life. Something that's a little more personal. Just this last weekend, I don't know when somebody might be viewing this, but as you know, this past weekend was Easter here, right? I wanted to buy a microwave for my mother, okay? Hers is, I don't know, from 1804 or something, and it just worked, but not very well, okay? And I have an employee who works in our art department who also has a little side business with appliances. And I said, find me a good deal on a microwave, okay? And he found me a microwave for $100 on Craigslist, and he said, this is a great deal, it's a great microwave. Go get that. And so we decided to do an experiment. And I sent him with 5 $20 bills. And I said, here's how I want you to negotiate it. So he goes to see her, and the ad said $100 firm. Okay. So he offers her 3 20s. No. I told my husband told me $100, don't accept $1 less. So he puts another one with $80. No. And she basically tells him to pound salt. She's a little bit cantankerous with him, right, and sends him out the door. So 2 hours later, I call on a different phone number, okay? And I say, I heard about your microwave. I want to come by and see it. Sure. So I swing by to see it. And I show up, Tom, with a box of chocolates. And I say, I just want to thank you for seeing me on short notice. And it's a holiday. And it's after church now. But I wanted to give you a little gift. And she's like, you didn't have to do that. That's so kind of you. Okay, so I give her the chocolates, Tom. And then look at the microwave and it looks, it's everything I expected it to be. And so I said to her, money's a little tight for me right now. Could I offer you $50 for your microwave? And she accepted it. So it's $50 and a box of chocolates. So I start to pay her, and I give her the 5/20s, although she's agreed to $50. And I said, the microwave is worth $100. But I said, let me talk to you about this a second. I sent my employee here, and you shot him down for 60 and 82 hours ago. Okay, why did you accept 50 from me? You get the whole 100, but just tell me why. She goes, you're so nice, and you're so friendly, and I was going to give my other daughter this box of chocolates, and my husband did tell me not to accept less than $100, but I just felt compelled. That's the law of reciprocity, Tom, and liking.
What about the principle of authority? What is that, and how does it fit into your program?
Well, Madison Avenue figured out a long time ago that they put a dentist in front of you and they say 4 out of every 5 dentists say, right? Or I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. Or LeBron James, they figured out, is going to sell a lot more basketball shoes than you or I would doing their commercials. They found that when someone is an expert or someone is in a position of authority or has significant education in an area, that people tend to follow their lead, follow their recommendation, so to speak. Well, in the smaller communities that we're working with, the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce is a pillar in that business community. And by that I mean that their opinions are respected. And of course, it's from the executive director in the chamber that these cards are coming. And on those greeting cards, it'll say, you're going to have from our most respected members, our most valued pillars in our business community, free, no strings attached gifts. And the implied endorsement there or recommendation from that chamber executive is very important. And then in addition to that, Tom, on the gift certificates themselves, we encourage, it's an option, but we encourage the executive director to put on the back of the certificate a comment about that business, to use that law of authority. So let's say Al's Barber Shop is offering a free haircut, right? Pretty common, okay? Maybe on the back it says, I've known Al from Al's Barber Shop for 19 years. 11 of it, he's been a member. 2 years, he was a board member with our Chamber of Commerce, and he's a lousy golfer, and he's a great guy, okay? So you can't go wrong with a haircut over at Al's, and you know he's fantastic, or whatever it might be. Or at this restaurant, my wife loves the chicken parmesan. You know, you might check that out. But we've never not had great service, a good value, and awesome food. But some kind of an endorsement or some kind of a recommendation from that chamber executive is very useful, because what we've learned is that people tend to follow the crowd. You know, they tend to follow the lead of people whose opinion they respect. I tested this. I told you I like these research projects, right? I put on an Armani suit tailored, right? I have a Halliburton briefcase. You know what those are? Those are the ones in the movies where every time a drug deal goes down and there's $1 million, they open up the metal case. Okay, I have one of those. So I grabbed the Halliburton case, and just to be fun with the research, I handcuffed it to my wrist in downtown Indianapolis, right? And then I went to the crosswalks where it was real busy, and against the grain, against the signal, I started walking out into traffic. And dressed like that, a herd of people just followed me. In fact, I stopped the experiment because I thought, I'm going to be sued for getting somebody killed, just having some fun to see if they followed, but they followed. Then I dress myself up as disheveled as I possibly can, right? One step above holding a sign saying I'll work for food, okay? And then I walked out into traffic against the signal. Nobody followed. In the case of authority, if they see a figure that they think is successful, prosperous, knowledgeable, credentialed in a particular area, or they have a reason with which to really give weight, if you will, to that person's opinion, they're likely to follow it. And our program uses it by having the chamber executive himself or herself recommending the sponsors who are participating in the program.
Well, are there any other psychological principles or social behavioral laws that find their way into your program?
Well, there's actually three more primary laws that have a more of a superfluous role. Okay, one is the law of scarcity. Think what St. Elmo, Tickle Me Elmo dolls, right? Or Cabbage Patch dolls, or tickets to a sporting event that are about sold out, or that difficult table to get at the real desirable restaurant. That when something is scarce, it tends to be more valuable. A number of years ago, Continental decided they were going to quash the concourse trip from London to New York. It just was no longer economically viable. Well, the next day, sales skyrocketed. They didn't get any faster, the tickets didn't get any cheaper, everything was the same. It was the availability that was going away. In our program, every gift certificate has a very prominent expiration date that's normally about 6 weeks after the mail date, which is going to be about 5.5 weeks after the receipt date. So there's an urgency for them to act upon their free gift, and the clock is ticking as far as their ability to be able to access the free gift. And now, you might torture yourself if you think that you've missed your expiration date for a free box of donuts, right? Or you missed your expiration date on golf, or you missed your expiration date on that oil change and you need it on your car. And so the scarcity plays a role. There's two others just briefly. One is the law of consensus, and that is that people like to follow what the herd, what other people are doing. And frankly, one of the things that we encourage our sponsors to do is when someone is there redeeming their gift certificate, to have a big picture of that gift certificate blown up. We'll do it for them, put it on the wall, and then have the person, while they're waiting for their pizza or while they're waiting for their gift, to go sign the wall. Thank you for my birthday gift, Tom. You know, whatever it might be. I'm really looking forward to the massage, whatever it might be. Okay, and over time, every single resident in the community is going to be receiving it. You build this cascade, really, of names and positive comments and affirmations from people in their community. Well, when somebody walks in, they go, does everybody in town eat here? Okay. Does everybody in town have their hair styled here? Okay. And it's the consensus that tends to help support the program. And then lastly, people like to stay consistent with either things they've said or things in the past that they've done. A study looked at people in a community where on average 32% of the population, adult population, voted. And they simply called every one of those people, Tom, and they said, do you plan to vote in the next election? And over 70% said, yes, I plan to vote in the next election. In that same community, they called about half the folks. What they found is the people that said, yes, I plan to vote in the next election, 65% actually voted, as opposed to the normal 32%. A doubling of the vote. Not who you're going to vote for, not vote for our guy, okay, just do you plan to vote in the next election? Those that did not receive the call, the normal 30, 32, 34% of the people got out and voted. So people tend to want to stay consistent with the commitments that they've made. So if you're there for a free shampoo, cut, and style, and the stylist is giving you a little head massage there as they're shampooing you out and they cut your hair and do a nice job for you, free gift, right, for your birthday or whatever it might be. And as you leave, they say, Tom, would you consider us the next time you need a haircut? Pause and wait for a reply. Make you actually answer, and you say, absolutely, this has been great. Then the chances of you actually coming back the next time and the next time is substantially greater. In fact, doctors have found that they increase the number of people that keep their appointments if they have them write, not the receptionist, if they have them write the date and time of the next appointment on the card as opposed to giving them a card with it on there. That restaurants have found that they can drop no-show rates for reservations from 30% to 10% simply by saying, not, hey, Tom, if you have a problem, please give us a call if you can't make it so we can make your table available to someone else. If they say, Tom, would you please give us a call if for any reason you're not able to make it, so we can make the table available to someone else. And if they pause and they wait for your reply and you say, absolutely I will, okay, then no-show rates with there are no calls drop from 30% to 10% simply because you said that you would. Well, how that again relates to our program is once they've helped with your oil change, and they say, well, if you have problems with the vehicle in the future, would you please consider coming to see us? Absolutely. Or next time you need some pastries, would you please consider coming to see us? And we found that when they look you in the eye and they say, absolutely, I will, or sure, I'll be delighted to, thank you. Coupled with the law of liking, they've enjoyed you and the service, the law of reciprocity, because of the fact that they feel compelled to reciprocate after having received a gift, that the chances of you actually reeling in a long-term, mutually beneficial relationship with this new customer is extremely high.
You don't have to be a social behavioral psychologist to know that as it relates to Goodwill, everybody loves free. Everybody loves unexpected surprises. Everybody loves being recognized, especially for important celebrations in life.
Yes.
And everybody loves no strings attached gifts.
No question about it.
As it relates to chamber members, gift package sponsors, all that love and appreciation will be heaped on them. They could never create this kind of program that gives mass appeal without the chamber. They'll have a stampede of new customers coming through the door, and all they have to do is not drop the ball when the customer comes in with the gift certificate to be redeemed.
And then allow the law of reciprocity, liking, and authority to do the rest of the work for them.
Sadly, this is all the time we have for this topic today. I think you have a fascinating and well-conceived business plan. I wish you the greatest success.
Thank
as everyone benefits from touching this Goodwill gift program. I'm truly excited for your future. It's got great potential, and I hope that you'll please come back and visit again and give us an update.
Well, I'd love to. Thank you, Tom.